Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our Community Climate Action Plan workshop. I am Nancy Allen. I'm with the Office of Environmental Programs, and we have several other folks today with us who will be talking to you about some of the items in our Climate Action Plan. I'll go ahead and get started with an overview, and then we will have Alexis from Public Works talk about the waste programs and waste diversion programs and progress they have made there. And then we will have James from our Parks Department talk about all of the wonderful things that Parks is doing, including the addition of some more parks to our city. So welcome again, and we'll get started. So Katrina, next slide. So the City of Phoenix is now a C40 city. We joined the C40 network of cities in 2020. The C40 network of cities is a global community of some of the world's largest cities who recognize that climate is an issue that needs to be tackled and realize that a lot of effective, impactful things can be done at the city level. And so we are excited to be part of this network. Part of our joining the network meant our commitment to have a C40 compliant climate action plan in place by the end of this year. And that is what we are aiming to do. The draft plan that is out now, and we would appreciate if you would look at that and get us comments back, will be out through the kind of toward the end of July. We have various methods that you can comment on that. You can go through a survey method that will walk you through the climate action plan for comments, or you can send us an email with more information if you would like to do that as well. Next slide. This plan is based on data that we have gathered through years of doing inventories on our GHGs. And GHGs are our greenhouse gas emissions for the city. The city did a first inventory in 2009 where they only really looked at city operations. But in 2012, we started doing community-wide greenhouse gas inventories in addition to our city operations inventories. And through that, we have been able to show a decrease in our overall GHG emissions, that is on the city side and our community side, since 2012. These reports are on our website, and information about how to get there will be given a little bit later, so you can see this for yourself. This plan that we have out now is based on our 2018 data from our GHG inventory. And as we are doing this work now, we are in the process of getting ready to do our next inventory. So we expect that this climate action planning process that we are in now will be something that will be repeated at least every other year, if not every year going forward, based on new information that we get from these inventories and from our modeling efforts. Our goal is to get to be a net zero GHG city by 2050, and that is a C40 goal that we have committed to. Next slide. So the plan is based in two very broad sectors: those actions that reduce our emissions and those that help us with resiliency. We have goals on all of these. And there are many other goals inside the climate action plan besides the ones that are just mentioned here towards stationary energy, transportation, waste, and then the resiliency, air, local foods, heat, and water. Next slide. An example of some of those goals are new buildings will be net positive. 40% of the folks in Phoenix actually can commute to their job or to where they play by walking, biking, or using transit. Phoenix is unusual in that we are one of the largest cities that is actually expanding mass transit. So that hopefully will help us out on that. And we are working on some of our resiliency goals, especially around things like heat, clean air, and shade that will allow a more comfortable commute by walk or by bike or waiting at a bus stop. Next slide. So as I said earlier, the draft plan is out for review. Please do take a look at it, get us your comments. We plan on addressing those comments, updating the climate action plan, and having that in front of our city council subcommittee in September so that we can have it to full council for approval in October of this year. Again, as I said before, this approval of this plan is not a final. We do plan on revising this periodically as we get new information and we have new data to inform our decisions better. Next slide. And so this is the address where you can go and find the climate action plan, which you must have already been there because you registered for this workshop. But this can also lead you to those GHG inventories, and it can lead you to a lot of other information as well, including the very detailed work on the inventory data. So with that, I will turn that over to, I think, Public Works, and Alexis is going to talk first about some of the fantastic work that Public Works has been doing and some of their goals.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Just a second and I'll get my screen share going. All right, hopefully you can all see that. Can I get a yes?
I can see that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So yes, I'm Alexis. I work for the City of Phoenix Public Works Department on the Zero Waste team. If you're not familiar with us, we are an education team for Public Works. You would typically find us out in the community educating at schools, at neighborhoods, tabling at events, basically around recycling, education, and waste diversion. So the City of Phoenix produces 1 million tons of waste every year. 1 million tons is very hard to visualize, so we've put it in the context of the weight of Boeing 737 airplanes. So 1 million tons is equal to the weight of 20,129 Boeing 737s. And so that's a lot of waste that the City of Phoenix is producing. That is not including the surrounding cities in the valley like Mesa or Chandler or Gilbert, just the City of Phoenix. And so with that, there's a big opportunity to divert waste from the landfill. And so in 2016, our zero waste goal was established by the year 2050. And the Climate Action Plan talks a bit about increasing waste diversion participation by all residents and businesses. That's one of the main goals. So we're focused on enhancing our solid waste programs, public and private partnerships, and then education and outreach, which is where our team also fits in. So at home, you have your recycling and your trash bins, which you put out on the curb, and that material goes to one of 2 transfer stations. A transfer station is exactly what it sounds like. It's an area where the waste is transferred. So on one side, the trash is loaded onto semi trucks and sent out to the landfill. On the other side, the recycling goes through the materials recovery facility for sortation. So at home, you can put everything in one bin, your paper, plastic, glass, and metal, and the material recovery facility will sort it all back out. The picture on the top there is of our 27th Avenue transfer station on 27th Avenue in Lower Buckeye. And the picture on the bottom is of North Gateway transfer station off the I-17 and Dixoletta. So once the trash has been loaded onto a semi truck, it is sent out to our landfill. Now we have one active landfill. This is out in Buckeye off the State Route 85. It opened in 2006, and this is a picture of it here. That semi truck that you see at the bottom there, and you see a few towards the top of the landfill as well, those came from our transfer stations carrying trash. They do the journey about 120 times a day. Each truck probably has about 60,000 pounds worth of trash. And that's just a lot of moving waste that they have heading to the landfill. So one of the other goals in the Climate Action Plan is reducing greenhouse gas emissions resulting from the degradation of waste by capturing landfill gas and converting 100% of the methane from the landfill. So we do capture the methane gas. Currently, it's being flared, but we're looking into using that gas into a renewable natural gas. And one thing I forgot to mention too, the landfill from our southern transfer station is 45 miles one way, and from our northern transfer station, it is 65 miles one way. So again, you're traveling between 90 to 130 miles round trip, 120 times a day, and each truck has about 60,000 pounds worth of trash. So this is a really great diagram if you're really interested in learning about the mechanics of the landfill, you can find this on Phoenix.gov/recycle+. It shows you those the gas flares and how all of those pipes and everything work in the landfill. So a really great diagram if you're interested in learning more. And I like to show this picture. This is of our Cave Creek Golf Course located off of 19th Avenue and Greenway. This used to be an old landfill from the 70s. The picture that you see here is of some renovations in the parking lot. So as I mentioned, it was a landfill closed in the 70s. As they were doing renovations of the parking lot in 2019, they uncovered all of this waste. And so this is stuff that has been buried since 1973. Now, it's a common misconception that waste breaks down in a landfill. It actually does not. It attempts to, and that's where methane gas is produced from the organic waste, but generally it ends up mummifying over time. So this is an up close look of newspaper that was buried in the 70s that we uncovered in 2019. And you can see that newspaper looks in pretty good shape. We have some materials on display at our North Gateway transfer station. So we do provide tours of that facility. If you're ever interested, please reach out to our team. But we do have a display case where you can see this material up close. It's really incredible that all of this waste has been preserved all those years. All right, so moving on to the materials recovery facility. So at the transfer station, the other side of the facility sorts through your recyclables. And this is what you see here. It's a series of people and machines sorting through the recycling to sort it back out into paper, plastic, glass, and metal. Now, to talk a little bit about what's recyclable. So paper products, these are all really great. Like your office paper, your newspaper, your laundry detergent bottles are great. Plastic water bottles, keep the lids on. Your metal cans, like your steel cans, like your food cans, aluminum cans, those are great. And then your glass bottles and jars are also great, but those you want to remove the lids because the lids are metal. And then an important thing about recycling is everything needs to be clean, empty, and dry. And that helps reduce contamination at the recycling facility. And then as far as things that are unaccepted, so no electronics or batteries, those actually are notorious for causing fires. So really important to keep that stuff out, take it back to an electronics store for recycling. No food waste, because again, that contaminates good recyclables. Foam material, styrofoam is not recyclable. There's currently no market for it, so we don't accept it. And then plastic bags actually get tangled up in our machines, which is why we don't take plastic bags at the facility. I have a really good picture. This is a very dramatic example of what happens. This is a machine that sorts out the cardboard and the paper, but as you can see, bags and other things get tangled up in it. So typically between 2 to 3 times a day, employees will come in here and cut this stuff out. So really important, if you have bags, take it back to the grocery store for recycling. Please don't put it in the recycle bin. And if you don't have recycling, we have these really great eco stations. These are rolled out across the city in various parks, and I think one library as well. But you can bring your recyclables here. Just remember, unbagged, completely loose, and you can put all your recycling in these eco stations. And if you don't know what's recyclable and the zero waste team is not close by, you can check the Recycle Right Wizard. You can find this on Phoenix.gov/recycle. Select your city. This is actually a really cool tool that we've collaborated with 11 other cities around the valley to import their information into it. So if you have family or friends that live in other cities that you see listed here, they can use the same tool, but you would select your city, type in the material that you're looking for, and the wizard will tell you whether it's recyclable. And if not, it will give you options as well on what to do with that material. So Phoenix.gov/recycle. And then, we talk a lot about recycling, but what's even more important is, purchasing power. So these are 4 steps to keep in mind when you're out shopping. 1, refuse waste. Don't buy it if you don't need it. 2nd, buy in minimal packaging or buy in bulk. Number 3 is buy reusable. And then lastly, buy in recyclable packaging. So if you see a bunch of items like the egg carton that you saw in foam, or if it's in paper or plastic, the paper and the plastic is recyclable, the foam is not. So always try to think about that when you're shopping, purchasing in recyclable packaging. And then to touch on some programs that we have here. So, and I also want to touch on container placement. So on the street side against the curb to allow pedestrians to pass by safely, 4 feet apart, that allows our trucks to grab the bins much easier. And then that tan container that you see there, that is our green organics bin. So you can put yard waste in that bin. And that material goes to our 27th Avenue compost facility, which is located at our 27th Avenue transfer station. This facility is state of the art, opened in 2017. It can process yard waste and food waste. Currently, that program is only accepting these materials, so untreated wood, branches, basically any of your yard trimmings can go into that bin. It's available to just about a third of the city. And if you want to see if you're in the eligible area, Phoenix.gov/compost, and it's $5 a month to get that bin. And this is another great program. This is called Save as You Reduce and Recycle. That trash bin is actually a little bit smaller than the recycle bin. That's a 65-gallon trash bin. Normally you get a 95-gallon trash bin. So if you downsize your trash bin, you can save $3 a month on your bill. So if you're in the eligible area for the green organics and you do both programs, you're only up a couple bucks a month. If you want to know more about that program, Phoenix.gov/landfill. And then we also have this really great program, the Household Hazardous Waste Program. Typically, we would host events around the city, about 9 a year. We would rotate at different parks. And through COVID, that we've actually transformed this program into a home collection. And so I believe they're starting back up in the fall. So you'll just have to go to Phoenix.gov/HHW to learn more about this. But this is a great program to divert your chemicals, your paint, your electronics, all from the landfill. And so they'll do the home collection pickup, which is really great. And then this is an aerial image of our Resource Innovation Campus, our 27th Avenue transfer station. You can see right there in the middle, our compost facilities in the back there. But we have about 50 acres of lands available for businesses to come in and set up shop. So we've done numerous waste characterization studies to understand the composition of our trash and our recycling. So how many recyclables are being placed in the trash, and vice versa. And so this Resource Innovation Campus is really our hope to attract businesses there to set up shop, and they have direct access to the materials that come into our transfer stations. And so this fits in with that goal in the Climate Action Plan of implement programs to reduce waste, increase the reuse, recycling, and recovery of waste materials, and promote social and economic value. So we're looking at, we have our waste characterization studies and what RFPs maybe can we put out to attract businesses to the campus. And then lastly, I wanted to touch on the Green Business Program. This is a great program. Started in 2017. It certifies businesses who take initiatives on sustainability. So if you know of any businesses that are doing a great job, definitely recommend them to this program, Phoenix.gov/greenbusiness. We have about 100 businesses in the program right now. And we have a great directory on our Green Business site if you want to see which businesses are certified. And so here's our contact information. I also put our zero waste email on there. Should you have any recycling questions, definitely take that down and feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Okay, James, I think you're up next.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, Nancy. Let me pull up my screen share here. Give me 1 second. All right, Nancy, can you just give me a yes if you can see my screen okay and you can hear me?
We can see your screen. You're not on presenting mode yet, but you're getting there and I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, everyone. I'm James Orlowski. I'm a Deputy Director with the Parks and Recreation Department, and I oversee our management services area. So kind of all the administrative categories of our department, IT, fiscal, budget, but I also oversee our parks development area, which is responsible for developing and improving all of our parks in the city of Phoenix. So a lot of different exciting things going on. And I'm going to run through a quick presentation tonight and just sort of highlight some of the different ways in which we contribute to the overall climate action plan and some of the partnerships that we have. And at the end, I'd be happy to answer questions if there are any. And it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that the Parks and Recreation Department does play a really vital role in meeting the city's climate action plan. The first area, managing waste, and our previous speaker, Alexis, kind of already hit on this a little bit, but it's one of the partnerships that we have with the Public Works Department. And we host these large roll-off dumpsters called the eco stations at some of our parks facilities. I think we currently have them in 8 of our parks, and that includes Deer Valley, Paradise Valley, Sweetwater, Steele Indian School Park, Pecos Park, Maryvale, Hayden, and Desert West. So they're kind of sprinkled around the city, and they basically offer opportunities for people who live in multifamily residential areas that may not have access to recycling services at their own community. It allows them to still have an opportunity to drop off their recyclable materials. So great partnership, and again, strategically located in parks facilities around the city in partnership with the Public Works Department. In my previous role, I oversaw our downtown division, which included Steele Indian School Park, and so I got to see firsthand just how heavily used and relied upon the eco station there is. So it's a great partnership that we have with Public Works. In the air quality area, I just wanted to talk about one of our more recent initiatives, working with Mark Hartman and the Office of Sustainability here at the city, and also our partners at Salt River Project. We're going to be installing EV charging stations at 5 city park locations around the city. Again, kind of strategically located in different parts to kind of spread them around the city. Geographically, so Cesar Chavez, Desert West, Esteban, La Pradera, and Washington. The selection was done based on site assessments. We had to give consideration, of course, to things like constructability, the size of the parking lot that was available, availability of power source, and again, citywide distribution. But we're excited. This is going to be another example of a great partnership. Where we're going to be able to offer some EV charging infrastructure to hopefully serve folks that may not have convenient access to EV charging stations. So basically the way it works is SRP gives cities and towns an incentive, and it offsets the cost to construct those. And then Mark's office has been very great to work with and is kind of bridging the cost to construct those in our 5 park facilities. So we're really excited. And we think that's a great way to kind of dip our toe in the EV charging world. Because we have 185 parks around the city, what a great opportunity to partner and to offer that as an amenity to the community that we serve. In this area, this is kind of a busy slide, and the reason that it's a little busy is because there's kind of so much going on. So I want to talk just for a couple of minutes about tree and shade and the different things that we're doing in this realm. So to begin with, the city has a really ambitious couple of goals. One is to actually double the current tree and shade canopy to 25%. And we also want to have all residents hopefully live within a 5-minute walk to a city park. So very ambitious goals. And how are we going to do that? Well, a couple of different ways. With the Tree and Shade Master Plan, one of the things that we do is we have our tree donation program where we work with residents and businesses to actually fund tree planting projects in the city. So a great example, on Earth Day, we had a terrific partnership with Verizon and Keep Phoenix Beautiful, where they came in and planted a whole bunch of trees at Monterey Park. Just one example, we have these throughout the year, and great partnerships again with Keep Phoenix Beautiful and others like Verizon. So that's just one example. And in addition to that, we also have our department goal as the Parks and Rec Department that since 2016, our goal has been to plant 1,500 new trees in city parks every year. And we're proud that since 2016, we've hit that mark every year. So it's a goal that we take very seriously. We have dedicated funding sources that help us to do that, as well as the partnerships that I talked about where partners come in and donate trees. Between those two things, we're able to meet that goal every year. We also are building some new parks in the city, which is really exciting. We've been in a mode for a number of years, since before the Great Recession, where we were not able to build new park facilities in the city. A little bit of a weird dilemma where we had funds that we could use to construct parks. However, we didn't have the funding mechanisms in place to be able to then operate and maintain those parks. But with the support of the community and our city council and mayor, we're very fortunate that beginning in this upcoming fiscal year, there's actually 3 undeveloped park sites in the southwest portion of the city that we're going to be able to develop and offer parks in areas of the city that have been growing and expanding really rapidly. And the park infrastructure just hasn't really caught up. So the 3 are at 55th Avenue and Samantha Way, about a 10+ acre park site. We have another larger park site of about 14 acres at 71st Avenue and Meadow Loop. And then the 3rd park site is 87th Avenue and Lower Buckeye. So again, trying to expand the access to parks in our community. And again, really excited that we're now in this mode where we're stepping into a place where we can actually build new parks where we haven't been able to do so in past years, going back almost a decade, I would say. Another thing that we're doing to try to bring new park developments to the community is we're exploring kind of innovative partnership opportunities. One recent example was we partnered with the Levine School District at the Estrella Foothills Global Academy School, obviously in the Levine area, but we partnered with them. We contributed some impact fees, and coming together with them and also Taylor Morrison Home Builders, we were able to build a shared use neighborhood park site in the Tierra Montana neighborhood. So that was exciting. And I would just say that we're in lots of active discussions with other community partners. Again, looking at creative ways that we can try to partner together to build more new parks or shared use facilities at a time where funding is at a premium to maintain those park facilities. So again, doing a lot in this area, trying to plant new trees at existing parks and then develop new parks as well to meet some of our ambitious goals for tree and shade and expanding access to park facilities. Another area that we're really active in contributing to is just the local food system, and we do that in a few different ways. The community garden at Mountain View Park is a great example of a partnership as well. You can see some pictures on the screen here, but able to take what had been a dormant and kind of undeveloped community garden site, partner with Keep Phoenix Beautiful, partner with the local community there, and really just revitalize and re-energize that community garden. Been very well received, great example of a partnership. And we want to do that in more places throughout the city. So we're in active conversations in a couple different areas to try to partner to offer more community garden types of amenities to support that locally grown food infrastructure and food system in the city. One of the actually 3 undeveloped park sites that we're going to be developing, it looks like there may be a community garden component in one of those 3 park sites. And so we're excited about that possibility and having a partnership there. Also, the Los Olivos Urban Working Farm has been working its way through the approval process at Los Olivos Park. And so we're still hopeful and excited about that partnership opportunity. And our Fit Phoenix coordinator has a lot of active discussions with Roseanne Albright and Nancy Allen and her team about opportunities to support locally grown food in some of our park facilities. And then the last slide that I have here is just talking about water conservation and sustainability. Obviously, it's one of our highest uses and costs for our park system. We have a lot of plant material, trees, grass, etc. And that obviously requires a lot of irrigation and water. And so over the years, we've been trying to move closer to smart irrigation systems. We're heavily invested at this point in the CalSense smart irrigation controller system. We've been deploying that at most of our park sites. And it allows us to do some really cool things. So we're able to, control our irrigation systems remotely. We're able to adjust station run times automatically depending on what's going on with weather. We're able to monitor water flow to detect when there's breaks and to make adjustments accordingly. So it's a huge cost saver for us, a huge water saver, and just a lot of really cool stuff going on in this area. And just an interesting fact that if those times when we do get rain, if we skip one night of water use by not irrigating for one night across the entire department, that can save us up to $50,000, which equates to around $6 million or 6 million gallons of water, excuse me. So seemingly small, changes can have a really big impact. And we have $300,000 in our budget each year to continue to move in that direction and upgrade our our water and irrigation systems to more water efficient systems. So we're very active in this area as well, and really putting our kind of money where our mouth is, and it's making a big impact. So with that, those are the slides that I have to share. And Nancy, if time allows at the end, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. So thanks for having me tonight.
Okay, thank you, James. Matthew, do we have questions? I think there's some in the chat, and I think you had some that we received as part of registration.
Yes, ma'am. So to start, the ones in the chat had to do with both waste and parks. So can you, Alexis, talk or mention that again about how much waste is produced? There was a question as to the equivalency of a plane. So we produce 1 million tons of waste per year. And that was how many planes again?
20,129 737 Boeing planes. Yeah, 1 million tons equals 20,000.
So 20,000 737. And so you mentioned that these trips are very long trips, 45 or 60 some each way miles. And so some of the comments were, isn't there a better way to make that more efficient, or what kind of mileage do they get? Maybe you could talk about the move towards compressed natural gas or more efficient systems.
Yeah, so the garbage trucks that we have on the curb, so that we own those, and those run on CNG. But the semi trucks that go out to the landfill, we actually contract out with a company called MBI. So I'm not sure what a typical semi truck has in miles per gallon. I want to say it's probably under 10 miles to the gallon. But I'm not sure what MBI is looking into for the future. For us, though, for electric trucks, that's something that we're investigating to see, what's the feasibility of having an electric truck picking up at the curb. So more to come, but I unfortunately don't have too much to share at the current time.
And then to move along to what's being picked up by those trucks, a lot of questions had to do with, I guess, plastic bags. Are they really recycled or not? And then if other material that is sent to you to be recycled, where does that go now, since China and Asia isn't accepting it?
Yeah, so I see the question in the chat about the grocery stores recycling the bags. So bags that are collected at the grocery stores go to a company called Trex, that's T-R-E-X. Trex uses those bags and mixes it with sawdust and some other materials and turns it into plastic lumber. So all that material goes to Trex. As far as materials, like where our materials are going, so we own our materials recovery facilities where the recyclables are processed, but it is actually, it is run by Republic Services, which is a private contractor. So they oversee the operation of the facility and they do the brokering of the commodities. But we're, in Phoenix, we're really interested in creating a local circular economy. So if we can attract those businesses, as I mentioned, to a resource innovation campus, we can keep that material local, so it doesn't have to leave the state. So that's something that we're looking into, so that way, you could see the businesses on the campus recycling those materials.
And then last one about recycling or composting. A lot of food waste, or a lot of food is wasted and ends up in a landfill. Is there any expansion of the composting program, or maybe a home composting program?
Yeah, that's something we're looking into. The compost facility has the ability to be expanded to take in more organic waste. Currently, it can process up to 55,000 tons of organic waste per year, but as I mentioned, it can be expanded to increase that tonnage. So that is also something that we're looking into. There's just some logistics. We'll need more drivers, more trucks, more routes, more containers. So, and then of course, expanding the compost facility. So definitely something we're looking into, but I don't have too much more to share other than that.
And then this one's for both James and Alexis. A question was, if someone in the community wants to form a partnership with you, either by planting trees or helping you plant trees or learning more about the recycling programs, who can they contact, or how can they go about doing that?
For us, they can definitely contact our zero waste email, and I can put that in the chat so you have it as well. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you want to do a partnership. Definitely.
Yeah, same goes for parks. If anybody wants to reach out about a partnership, I'll put my direct contact info in the chat box. And if I'm not the right person to talk to you about that particular opportunity, then I'll make sure that I put you in touch with the right person. But to keep it easy, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to kind of triage it and get you to the right person. So
That'd be great, James. And then in your presentation, James, you spoke about water conservation and some of the things that you're doing at parks. And so that was a couple of the questions we had beforehand. Could you talk a little bit more maybe about the equipment you're installing, or maybe give people some ideas for them to use those at home?
yeah, the big thrust of what we're doing in our parks is installing the smart irrigation controllers. And so it adds that kind of smart IoT piece to irrigation in our parks. And so where in the past, we would have to manually send someone to a park location, they would have to access the irrigation controller at the site and then make the adjustments that they wanted. Now we're able to actually do that remotely from home in a lot of cases on a smartphone. And so it's kind of added a whole new level of access and control and convenience on top of all the other benefits of the smart IoT piece of it. So that's a big focus of what our efforts have been up until this point. I think another area that we're interested in kind of exploring a little bit further is water conservation inside of some of our park facilities, like our community centers. It's something that we're taking a look at to see if there's opportunities and funding that we could use for low flow kinds of equipment and things to make our water usage more efficient actually indoors the way that we've been doing outdoors. So I think it's probably kind of an untapped area for us, and one that we're excited to explore a little bit further. But our partnership with CalSense when it comes to our smart irrigation controllers has been just a great initiative and is paying a lot of dividends, not just financially, but in terms of the water conservation as well.
And do you have an idea of how much water you're saving? And then can you also give us that that little tidbit of how much water is saved when it rains?
Yeah, I can give you the factoid about that I gave in the presentation, which is that skipping one night of irrigation across the department can save up to $50,000. So that's the financial side. But even more importantly, the flip side of that is that that water savings equates to around 6 million gallons of water, again, if we're able to realize that across the department. And again, we have really extensive park system of 185 flatland parks. And then obviously we have a bunch of different facilities beyond that. So.
And how much water would these new systems save, the smart water meter systems?
I'm not sure that I have that statistic at my fingertips. I wouldn't want to steer you in the right direction, but I'll see if I can pull something up after and I can send that to you offline.
Okay, and then a question for follow-up in chat was, are they going to be using these water systems in other departments, maybe in the medians of roads or streets?
Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not sure, but I'd be happy to follow up offline and get some information from our street transportation department and how they manage that.
Okay, that'd be great. Go back to Alexis. There was a question about the pandemic, which we'll probably need to ask James about too, about how, let's say, community tree planting efforts were affected. But how has the pandemic affected reducing waste in terms of reusable cup refills, bulk bins? Is the business model changing?
Yeah, from what I've seen, a lot of businesses weren't allowing you to bring your reusable bags or your reusable mugs to fill up on coffee in the morning. And so, but what I'm seeing now is a lot of businesses are reopening to that. There's some coffee shops that haven't officially allowed you to bring your reusable mugs back, but the grocery stores are allowing you to bring your reusable bags back. So I think it put a temporary pause, but I haven't seen any businesses changing their zero waste model.
And then for James, are you seeing an uptick maybe in events coming by or being scheduled for maybe community planting?
Yeah, it's interesting. While the usage of the parks went way up during the pandemic because of the considerations around not having large gatherings and trying to minimize in-person contact, we really did move away from some of the volunteer programs that we would have done in the past. One of the exceptions was our Park Steward program, which was still pretty active throughout the pandemic, but we're definitely excited that we're at a point now where we can start ramping up a little bit more in planning for the fall when the weather gets nicer, that we'll be able to get back to more of those volunteer centric events. But unfortunately during the pandemic, both because of city kind of health considerations, but also the considerations of our partners, there wasn't a whole lot going on, and we're just excited to kind of turn the page and look forward to more of those events, hopefully this fall.
That would be great. And I don't see any other questions in chat. Are there any closing comments either of you would like to make, or?
No, other than thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and for the interest in what we're doing. And yeah, we're excited, and any questions that we might be able to answer for you or partnerships that you want to talk about, don't hesitate to use the contact information.
And this is Nancy. So I have one more thing. So Matthew, there was a tree planting question, and we were lucky enough to have Mark on. So maybe Mark could answer that question about tree planting and church involvement, faith organizations, if he's still on.
Yes, still on. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, great. Yeah, so a whole lot is happening on the tree planting world. So with the new city budget, they established, City Council approved the adoption of a new Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, which includes a full-time tree administrator. So we'll really be moving the dial on tree planting citywide with a full-time person kind of working and coordinating with parks and with streets and with all the other neighborhood services and other departments, promoting really the tree donation portal and getting partnerships with businesses for tree planting and organizing community plantings. So that we're really seeing as ramping up, as well as there's a budget allocation for tree planting to create 9 cool corridors per year. And a cool corridor is a mile-long stretch where we see high pedestrian traffic, where we want to create kind of trees and shade, 200 trees per mile, where we'll look at in each council district developing these every year. So 9 miles is pretty good, but actually over 10 years, it's like 90 corridors corridors with these trees. We really need to expand those. James didn't really know it's pretty great. One thing actually 25, they had a 20% shade canopy in all parks by 2025. So just in the next few years.
So Mark was cutting a little bit in and out, but that last remark was that by 2025, parks will have the 25% shade. There was a question in chat, why 2050? Some of the goals are way before then. So for like the tree and shade goal is by 2030. The 2050 is for the greenhouse gas reductions and zero waste in particular. But before then, there'll be significant reductions. So for example, greenhouse gases, one of the commitments is to reduce that by 2/3 by 2030. So that's a significant reduction way before 2050. So a lot of these goals are sooner than 2050. But with that, thank you for coming. Please visit those links. There's surveys. There's more information. There's the draft climate action plan itself. There's also additional information on our greenhouse gas inventory, so you can learn where all these emissions are coming from. And then you can also find links to other areas that we've talked about today. So thank you and have a good night.